And welcome to Tavern Talk. That's right, we are a live stream, live to YouTube, unscripted, unreal, coming at you. We are a Wheel of Time themed show based on the epic fantasy series by Robert Jordan. My name is Ryan, and as always, joining me is the dancing brother Dan, Jansen Lashley Haynes, and Beth Doman, the Tavern Talk crew. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you. So yeah, today we have a special episode. You know, they talked about season 3 being specifically involving the Aiel and the Seafolk, so we thought it'd be interesting to dive into their belief systems, their cultures, and see what we think they're going to do in season 3 and how they're going to portray them, if they're going to portray them. We're going to get into it. But
right, the Seafolk and Aiel are both really examples of an exotic societies.
Yes.
You know, we hear about the Aiel, how scary and dangerous they are. The Seafolk come in, and everyone's just like, "Whoa! Look at these cats!" They are an entirely introduction to newness and expansion. I think a bit in the series.
Yes, I agree.
I also agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, as a reader, that is the experience. I mean, right, like for reals, like you're ensconced in like two rivers, and then you start seeing like, oh, now we see some big cities, and then oh, what? Now we're in the desert, and people are kicking each other in the face, and you don't know what's going on, and you have to like learn about them, and then you start learning about their backstories. Yeah, I hope we touch upon it. I'm really interested in how belief and like culture, like, and not culture, belief and like temperament and how they all like, I don't know, intermingle. You know what I mean? Like the Aiel are like hardened desert people, and they have prophecies they follow, and they have, you know, their own history, you know. But it's all like mixed in, like so like their belief systems like have to be benefiting them in the desert. Like they got to survive in the desert, so they have to have belief systems that breed, for lack of a better word, like hardened people.
Right.
And I think that's really fascinating how Robert Jordan put that all together. So, anyways,
I agree. I also think that, you know, during the reading of the books, they showed a lot of the Aiel and the Seafolk being opposites of each other. But the truth is they had an awful lot of similarities with each other as well, as far as having, you know, very, very respected women who could channel in very, very high places, and they didn't need to have the 3 oaths to be, not because Aes Sedai and the Westlands are feared. Probably more than anything else, they're feared. Their people are always wary of them. Not so much in the Aiel nation and the Seafolk nation. These women were held very, very high positions of power and helped lead their people. And although Aes Sedai definitely helped lead their people, people are very weary of them. They don't trust them. And the women who can channel among the Aiel and the Seafolk are very, very trusted people. In fact, they're almost held sacred. As far as the Windfinders and the Wise Ones. In fact, in the Aiel community, Wise Ones don't even take, you know, they don't even take up arms with each other. They don't fight each other. They could walk through a battle and not be harmed, because that's how highly respected they are. And that didn't change until very later on, and I believe, Lord of Chaos, where the Aiel Shido Wise Ones started to take part in war.
Battle of Dumas.
You know, I always thought it was because they could just surround themselves with like a bubble of air and nothing would touch them. So they figured like after hundreds of years of this happening, they're like, why even try?
I think it's because of a little bit more nefarious reasons why the Aes Sedai aren't trusted.
Yeah.
Namely, Ishamael, right? Like,
Yes.
he sowed the seeds of discord in the ear of Arthur Hawkwing. And that's why the Aes Sedai are not trusted in the Westlands. That and their own machinations, right? Their own ways of trying to pull the strings of all of the different kingdoms. And I think the thing that's different about both the Seafolk and the Aiel culturally is that they were driven to the brink to survive. And their entire culture is based on survival and respecting people. If you want to survive as a people, then everybody has a place and everybody has a role, and there's really no deviating from that. So if somebody who's an Aiel woman can channel, that person goes to study with the wise ones, no matter if they're like Soralia and they can barely channel a trickle, or they are like, Avienda, who's one of the strongest channelers that they've seen in a long time. No, I know that, Lottie, but all women who are Aiel that can channel train with the wise ones. They don't have any people die of wasting sickness. They don't have any people who are wilders who trickle through the cracks. And same thing for the Seafolk. They find their channelers, they keep them secret, and they send the weakest of them off to that White Tower to keep the White Tower from being suspicious. Why aren't there any, why aren't we having any? Because at least the Aiel were never really trading, with the exception of Kyrian. The Aiel were not trading with any outside influences, and Shara, I guess they would trade sometimes with Shara. But the Seafolk have established trade routes set all throughout the Westlands, so it would be very strange for there not to be any women who can channel. So they would send their weakest people off to the White Tower to be trained, to like as their quote unquote, I guess maybe their tithe to their self-induced tithe to the White Tower, to keep the White Tower from being suspicious of the fact that there's no women who can channel among the Seafolk. Whereas they keep their strongest, but they have that very regimented structure. And Jansen, you're going to be able to tell me the names because I cannot remember the names. But who was the Windfinder whose daughter was the one who was able to beat Nynaeve?
Okay, so that's the Windfinder who hated her sister.
Correct. But her daughter was basically was the strongest,
one of the strongest channelers that the light had.
But she was still considered an apprentice, and she was still treated like an apprentice. Or Nomengarden. One of y'all tell me, because I can't remember their names.
It's let's go. What was it? It's Southern L. Does it start with no? It is.
I'll find it. We can move on. I'll find it, and if it's relevant, then I'll let you guys know what they are.
Well, one thing I guess I want to comment on is I don't think we've really digged into the idea of why are there all these prophecies all over the place, right?
Oh.
So we have the Jedi prophecy, which the Seafolk follow, which is the return of the Cormor. Again, I don't know why they have their own thing. Why isn't the dragon all over? Why is it the Cormor? Why is it the Karkarn? Why is this? I mean, it's not that far away.
Well, I do believe so. I'm glad you mentioned this because I think that they're going to pick up on this exact thing on the show. I've said this before. I think that they're going to use every culture's different, parts of their belief system about the dragon, about to make the actual Korathon cycle. I think they're going to both add on to those things. And yep, her name was Talon. Yeah, Talon.
It was Talon was the daughter.
Yeah, Talon.
Yep. And I agree with that, Jansen, that we're going to see the cultural differences and the different, maybe we're not intricacies within the prophecy, but you also have to remember that the prophecies, the things that are important to the Westlands in fulfilling the prophecy, like Kalendor, have absolutely no relevance to who he is to the Aiel, or who he is to the
well, there is a connection.
There is a connection, but with the tier being, broken by the Aiel. But I mean, like, we don't mention the glass columns in the prophecy, in, you know what I mean? So, and even the Shanshan, if we're expanding it, the Sharans had their own prophecy that Demandred usurped, and the Shanshan have their own prophecies. So I think that those were divinely sourced, for lack of a better term, even though it's not like divinity like we religiously think of divinity. They were prophesied, or, out to those different people, so that Rand would be relevant to all those people in the way that would be necessary for how those cultures are at the time of the coming of the last battle.
So in so one of the things that binds us together in the books is part of one of the prophecies state that the Stone of Tyr will not fall until the people of the dragon come. Now, I believe that this, and we also remember that Moraine did not know that.
Yes.
She was surprised herself to find out that the Aiel were the people of the dragon when Rorark actually said it.
Goosebumps.
So I think that, on the show, Moraine's not going to know about this either. And she's going to find out, wow, okay, this is part of the prophecy, because we've already been seeing on the show that Moraine does not know everything. And we saw this as early as the very end of the very first season, when Lan finds her shielded, and he says to her, I thought Heartstone could never be broken. And she starts realizing and saying, I don't think that we just had the last battle. I think we just started it. So she's starting to learn new things about the last battle as well. So I think us as audiences, them as characters, we're going to start finding out about the actual prophecies of the dragon together as the show goes on. And we're going to see new things, and I believe Kalendor is going to be one of those things we're going to actually.
This snippet from the Jedi prophecies that's online, I'll just read it real fast. It reads, "The White Tower shall be broken by his name, and Aes Sedai shall kneel to wash his feet and dry them with their hair. The Stone of Tyr has fallen, and wars break over the nations of the land. Those that once ruled have returned and have been driven back for the first time." There's also a little thing here that's kind of cool. It says, "The Jedi prophecy, the prophecy of the Cormor, not the one you wait for in dread, the one we seek, herald of a new age."
So say that again. So basically, in the Jedi prophecy, they also mention the Seafolk.
Yeah, it is.
The Jedi prophecy is the prophecy of the Seafolk.
That is the prophecy.
Yeah.
Jedi, yeah. So the one. I'm sorry, not the Seafolk. I mean the Shanshan. No, the Shanshan. I meant the Shanshan, not the Seafolk. The Shanshan. Those who ruled come back. So yeah, I think they're going to have to use every culture to find the puzzle pieces that fit together with each other. And then they'll have a whole, view of it. I do, however, believe in the books, though, that Varen already knew this.
But
do you think?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I have two questions. One, I want to go back to the second question. Will be going back to that prophecy you just read. Well, actually, let's just do that right now. You in the prophecy, there is a very direct reference to Jesus when he mentions washing their feet and drying it with their hair. Now, do you think that is intentional? And if it is intentional, what is Robert Jordan saying by adding that?
I think that we've heard this from Robert Jordan's own mouth. I think that he took pieces from all belief systems, all, religious things, and I think he might have added that. He added many other things from many other religions and other beliefs that aren't even religions anymore, like, the Greek and Roman, and even the Asgardians. Naming Piran's hammer Mjolnir, reference to Thor's hammer. So,
wow, you know what? It's almost like, okay, this just dawned upon me. It's almost as if he had the thought exercise. What if you put Jesus in a reincarnation world?
Well, there were more references to Rand and Jesus than just that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The piercing on his side?
No, I'm saying, there's so many. I mean, that's one of the things that our first time reader was picking up on very early on. He's just like, this is a Jesus narrative. It's not a direct one, but what if, though, on some level, that is where he was like the impetus was that thought experiment, because that's what we're looking at. Rand is clearly a Jesus figure, but we're in a cyclical reincarnation situation, which is fun to say, but obviously the Bible is not, does not espouse that belief. So it's almost like a creative experiment.
I mean, isn't part of the Corinthian cycle talking about when the dragon will be reborn, there's going to be wailing and gnashing of teeth? That is very specifically
being reborn mentioned. Alone. Just being reborn alone.
It's the wailing and gnashing of teeth. So there's lots of biblical references. I think the thing is that Robert Jordan wanted to show that there's not just, first of all, there's no established religion, right? Everybody, it's just known thing that the wheel in the pattern exists. Nobody really questions. Well, it's not like they don't question it. It's more like it's an established.
But it's more.
I don't want to say doctrine.
See, I think there is a religion. I know that they say there's not. I know. Well,
it's not religion like we think of religion, like church on Sundays and stuff like that, right? But there's a faith pattern.
I'm no dark friend. I walk in the light.
Right. And so that's faith, right? That's a faith basis, right? It's more faith than it is religion. And it's more of a spiritual belief than it is a religion. It's not full of man-made doctrine and man-made dogma and all of the negative things that we connotate with religion, right? So then you have the white cloaks that had their own thing. They were the equivalent of the religious zealots of the Wheel of Time and the Shan-Shan-Chu in their own way. But that being said, Robert Jordan wanted Rand to be relatable to more than one type of person. How many book series have you read where you're going along and how often there's almost always some sort of savior figure in most major epic fantasy, right?
Oh yeah, I had a hard time. I couldn't relate to
Terry Goodkind that gets super preachy and super it's not God, but it is God, and it's a turnoff for the average reader. And I think Robert Jordan was very wise in the way that he wrote Rand. He put multiple different strains from multiple different, mainstream religions to make these characters relatable to multiple people from multiple different walks of life, even people who don't believe in religion, who don't, who atheists, who don't believe in anything. There's something powerful about having this character who isn't just another Jesus written on a page in a different way.
Yeah. Beth, we just finished Winter's Heart, and at the end of that, I believe it's Eben who dies. And they, his Aes Sedai, who had bonded him as a warder,
heartbreaking.
Was praying, was whispering prayers over his body,
and Viren also,
and Viren, correct? Yes. So what are these prayers then? If there is no faith to involve,
there's faith. There's faith. There's just not religion. There's faith. Because your faith that they're being rewoven into the pattern, they'll be born again. That's faith. That's faith that they will be even Egwene at the end of when she's about to die, right? In the Battle of Marilor, she says Gawain will be reborn again. And she took comfort in the fact that she knew that he was going to be reborn, and that was one of the things where she was willing to give up her own life because she knew that. So there's, like I said, there's a difference between faith and religion.
Yeah, there's also a couple of other times when Ingtar found who was it? The two dead
The two dark friends.
Chingao and I forgot the other one, Nadao.
They were the prison wardens that helped Pat and Fane.
And they said, say a prayer for them at the end, and he said the prayer. Then also, there was another time where Rand did it, said, say a prayer for the woman who died by the White Cloaks who tried to assassinate him.
Is this the may you shelter in the palm of the Creator?
That's the Borderlands saying.
Okay. Rand tells the Aiel to hang them all and say a prayer for the woman who passed away, who died because she was on the same street as him. And Rand killed one of them. Remember, he asked one of them, what was your name? I believe his name was Padre, something like that. And he said, today's your lucky day, Padre. You get to watch your friends die and go back and tell Pedro Nile that it's him that I will see hang again. And he said, say a prayer.
Were they in Kyrian or Camelin?
They were in Kyrian, and remember, they all spit at Padre before he left and ran away to tell Pedro Nile.
Jerks.
Yep.
Well, here's something that's in my head is, so this Jedi prophecy, it says that more or less that the Coromor will bring the Seafolk glory, right? And all the seas of the world will be theirs. Let's talk a little bit about prophecy, I guess. When you have people that are issuing foretellings, that in which things have to be true, and yet they're esoteric enough that the Aes Sedai are kneeling to wash his feet and dry them with his hair. We're dealing with absolutes, with abstractions, I suppose, as well. So there is some sort of interpretation that needs to be done in order to get to the heart of what the prophecy actually is. Is this the issue then with prophecies like the Jedi, is that it's just being interpreted incorrectly? Are all prophecies somewhat corrupted to a certain degree? I mean, where is this wrong and where is it right?
Well, I don't know if they're corrupted, but I think you're right. It's interpretation, because it's like before he did it, what does he will take you back and destroy you even mean? What did anybody even know what that meant until he actually did that? And then it made perfect sense. It made perfect sense how he would take the Aiel back and destroy them, because he took them back to their old history, and you didn't know what that was before they even talk about it. How can the stone of Tyr fall if he doesn't have that sword yet? Well, how can you do that? Tom Maryland mentions it twice before it actually happened, and then you actually see how it's done.
Then we get into the whole notion that every prophecy that Rand fulfills, he already knew the damn prophecy, and we have this where you can't.
Except for when he was born.
No, that's
exactly.
True. That's not true.
How so?
He didn't know anything about the Aiel prophecies. He didn't know anything about the Jedi prophecies, but he fulfilled those. He knew absolutely nothing about those.
Correct. No, the dragons on his arms did occur without him doing anything. That's correct. But Ryan, to your point, let's say in season 2 it ends with Moiraine creating that dragon thing. Is that a fulfillment of prophecy?
It is, because it was done.
Yeah. I think it's the equivalent of the banner flying. They're not going to have a dragon
it was
banner.
Done because, it was done, and because it was done, it was fulfilled. I mean, it doesn't necessarily say that it doesn't make it not a prophecy because someone decided to do it.
We all agree so that there is this whole notion that, and Robert Jordan loves to talk about this, that as time passes, the knowledge and facts become loose, right? Facts become myth turns into legend fades, blah blah blah, right? So we're talking about prophecies that have do we know exactly when these prophecies were invented? do they have a shelf life? Like, how long have they lived with these prophecies? Either way, like, we agree that there's translation, there's like history has affected like the current modern like understanding of what these prophecies are, but we have like blanket belief in prophecies. Just a blanket understanding that we're all going to organize our daily lives and our cultures and societies around them to right. Like
that's what Maureen's whole quest was around a prophecy.
So what's the oldest prophecy that we know of from the books? What's the oldest one?
You tell me. I don't know.
I think you would have to go back to Jonai and the unnamed Aes Sedai, who says,
"Thanks, Nomengard."
When, he says they ask the Aes Sedai, how is this important when we don't know when? You know, like, and that's the oldest we know of is when Jonai was listening to those Aes Sedai talk, and that was in Rand's POV when he was in the Road to the Spear.
Because Jonai was one of his ancestors, right? Was one of his direct ancestors.
He was Charn's grandson, who yeah.
So do we think like? So this is kind of maybe getting too into the weeds here, but like we have Robert Jordan saying that there is no religion, just the nature of good and evil is inherently understood by everyone in this world, which is a fucking statement unto itself. Like everybody in the entire like globe understands that there's a light and there's a dark and there's a creator and there's a dark one. That is just a mind-blowing understanding. So I have some ideas around that. That to me feels very much like a society that is not free. We don't need to get in the free will situation, but I do believe that indicates that like either epigenetically or just through like, you know, the Matrix, if everyone believes one thing, that's not how we understand the world in our age. Right. So do you think that it's endemic to that age that the people have this kind of weird belief system? Or do you think that like when it was our turn to live in this world, like the fact that I don't is like, what does that say? You gonna gather me?
You know, this is interesting. You're saying this because I think that they actually elaborated more in this on the show through the shadow. By them telling Rand and Matt and other people that, you know, we need to do this to stop the hurting, to stop the wheel from. They elaborated on Ishmael's philosophy about wanting to stop the wheel and stop everything from cycling over and over and over and over again. And they look at it on the show, at least the Dark Friends do, as something that needs to be stopped, because it's not like Rand's PO. Oh, by the way, red spoiler alert, guys. Anyone please listen. This is a spoiler. So Rand finally realizes at the end, you know, what everything was about. You know, it was always about everyone else, not him, not any of those other things. And that he gets to love again and to try to do better next time. But the Dark Friends, at least in the show, they want to stop everything because they want to stop the hurting from happening over and over and over again. At least that's what
it's, and don't forget, guys, that remember also in the show, right? Moiraine's little snip of paper that she got from Bill Doman was a dark prophecy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
it was the one, but it was the one that they wrote
about Lanfear being freed. You know, she walks
cave.
The daughter of the night, blah blah blah. And see, Dark Friends have their own prophecies. So and then there's also the prophecy that was scrawled on the wall of the dungeon when Padden Fane was freed in the beginning of the Great Hunt.
So that's why do we all just okay? I have some bones to pick with that. Look, you just see some bloody writing on the wall, and you go, "Oh my god, that's a prophecy!" Like it could just be a very creative.
Well, no, because the Brown Aja are aware of dark prophecies. They're
Remember, they
aware
also
of
said when they read that it had the sound of prophecy.
the sound of prophecy. It had the sound of
Yeah. Like Simon and Garfunkel, Sound of Silence.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
That goes the sound.
silence.
And again,
But
again, it's Viren who's also writing this, who I believe already knows
knows it. She
Yeah.
already knows the dark prophecy.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is the thing. Like, I think getting back to your question about, if there's a prophecy and, you live your life, your entire life expecting, maybe not in your lifetime, but this prophecy is going to be fulfilled. So I think the everyday person living in the third age doesn't really wake up in the morning and think, is that prophecy going to be fulfilled today? I think most of the people in the third age are just living their lives just like we are, and, just want to make enough money to feed their families and have a roof over their head and lead a relatively happy life. And so I don't think like prophecy is at the main front of people's thinking until
good
all
point.
of
Yeah.
all of these things start happening, and then it's like a flashing neon sign right above your face or
Yeah.
right in front of your face, right? So
Or
I just,
or a glowing sphere and a statue. If you're on
Exactly.
tree malking. So let's talk
Right.
about the end result of this prophecy, I guess.
Yeah.
Is the people of tree malking, when they used the Kolkon, they called it the end of the age of enlightenment or age of imagination. Not imagination. It's the
Age of Illusion.
illusion. That's what it was. The age of illusion had ended, and they all Jim Jones, man. They all drank Kool-Aid, and there's an island full of just hail bop.
but do you know what that's very similar to?
Are they wearing black Nikes?
They're in white Nike.
Do you know?
Oh no, I guess they were black, maybe. Yeah. What's that?
Do you know what that's very similar to?
Uh-uh.
When the Aiel die, they say they wake from the dream. So the
Oh,
end of
correct.
the illusions. And when the Aiel die, they wake from the dream.
Correct,
So-
but this is a fulfillment. We assume
it's a
of a
fulfillment of the
prophecy.
Mhm.
What is this prophecy all about? It's like, okay, if the prophecy says that the Cormor actually happens and does this stuff, eventually we're all going to kill ourselves because the age of illusion's over.
They wanted to wake from this illusion.
But,
Hey, Dana Lou.
But to Ryan's point, how does prophecy suddenly dictate an entire society offing themselves? Hi.
Well, I don't know
This is
if
one
it.
of my friends, my gaming.
I don't know if-
Yes.
I don't know if if the prophecy says that, but a prophecy can say what a people will do, like it did, saying that he will take you back and destroy you. So that affected an entire culture.
Mhm.
Right. On something that we know can be corrupted, may or may not be true. And
Yeah.
Rand has no idea even it exists. He has
And there's
no.
what are the other names of the prophecies? There's the Jedi prophecy, the prophecies of the dragon, which are like the
The Corinthian cycle.
Corinthian cycle, yeah.
the prophecies of Roidion. Is that what they call it in?
I don't think there's an established name. For
No,
the
they- yeah, I don't-
Aiel.
prophecies of Roidion in the book a couple times. They do say that, and then they have the
dark prophecies.
Shanshan. Well, the dark prophecy, the Shanshan, though they have what is it called? The Ascenic prophecy, the Ascenic cycle. Isn't that what it's called?
I don't remember what it's called, but it
The
basically
Ascenic
is
cycle,
just.
and then
Mhm.
they have levels of enlightenment that you can have in the Ascenic
Mm-hmm.
cycle. I believe. Now, I could be wrong about that, guys, but I think I.
Thetas.
And then the Sharans have their own prophecy. Like I said, that Demandred usurped because they thought that Demandred was the equivalent of the Sharan equivalent of the Dragon Reborn. And that was Demandred's entire thing when he went and he got, what was the name of the Sangreal he got in that short story that was in Unfettered?
The Karnan.
Yes, thank you.
Sakarnan.
Sakarnan. So he hit the whole story. If you guys haven't read that short story about how Demandred gets Sakarnan, you really need to, because it's really, really good. It's a short story that Brandon Sanderson wrote that's in a anthology of short stories that was edited by Sean Speakman.
And they do mention when he's doing this in the books as well.
Yeah.
I think it's Rorak who says that there's fighting in Shara, And then he calls it, they have other names for it, like Kangali and names like that the Sharks call it. But during that, and they say there's never been fighting there before in the 3,000 years that they've been there.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when Demon Dread is becoming...
Yes, Bow the Wilt.
Yep.
So
yeah.
I guess...
So, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, but... So when you start seeing these signs happening, you don't necessarily know what the end result of all of that is going to be, right? Like the Aiel didn't know that Rand was going to divulge all of the secrets that the wise ones and the clan chiefs receive when they go through the glass columns. So, the basics. He's going to break us and rebuild us, but you don't really know how he's going to do that. You don't know to what extent it's going to be. And I think that the prophecies, the thing that makes the Aiel and the Seafolk prophecies so different than what the Corinthian cycle does for the Westlands or Randland, whatever you want to call it, is that they look at it as just a matter of fact and it's going to happen, and their societies are so much more stoic just in general. They don't have machinations going on. Not to say that there's not ambitious people, because I mean, look at the Shido, right? It's not to say that there's not people that are going to twist and usurp things, but for the most part, they realize that they're going to be able to, like, quote unquote, come home after the prophecies are fulfilled. So the prophecies being fulfilled is a good thing at the end of the day.
But if you consider this too, think about how much the prophecies literally direct the people who are living today in this time. All the different prophecies and what they do. Imagine if they're all gone, right? So what do they have to live for now?
Chaos and anarchy.
I mean,
let me stick real fast with the Cormor here. I mean, what we know of the prophecy is that it's going to bring the sea folk some great glory. They're going to rule the seas, and apparently everyone on Tree Malking must kill themselves. I don't understand. Like, where do these two meet hands in a reasonable conclusion? It doesn't. Either
I don't think
is a sense of destruction, or it's a force of good, and it seems like it's supposed to be a force of good if that's what they're bringing glory. And yet, when this thing happens, it's time to go die.
Well, people's determination of a prophecy doesn't necessarily mean they're right. You know,
right. I do wonder what it
we saw it plenty of times. I mean, for example, the White Cloaks, who know
what Noman Garden just put in chat, because that's very relevant.
Different prophecy than the Seafolk. Yes,
the Amayar are the people who killed themselves. Not
they follow the waterway. They follow the waterway. He's absolutely right, and they only talk about that with the MIR. They follow the waterway, which is kind of like the Way of the Leaf, but they depend on the Seafolk for protection and other things, which is different than the Way of the Leaf, because the Way of the Leaf, they would never depend on someone else for protection. They wouldn't want anyone to do violence. They would run away. Mm-hmm. So the waterway is a totally different philosophy and a different way of living. Definitely. So
perhaps, Brother Dan, that he included that story, included the people who we never meet, obviously, because they're dead.
Thank you, Dax.
As a way to highlight, again, the universality of prophecy in this world, and the adherence that people have to them, and the danger within them. Because then we find out later that the Shansham prophecy was just completely bastardized. And they're one of the most, like, strict adherents, it seems, to prophecy, you know. And it's a ruse. Like, they're basically following a ruse, which is, I think it's fascinating, like, that there's just, like, we don't meet any group of people who just think it's all hogwash.
Kind of we do.
Who?
The White Cloak.
Who? Huh?
The White Cloaks believe a lot of it's hogwash. They like Pedro
Well,
Nile.
folks believe that well,
No, but they believe theirs is the right
Remember,
one.
Pedro Nile believes that he definitely thinks that the last battle's coming, but he doesn't believe that there's going to be some big war between a Dark One and the Dragon Reborn. He thinks that the last battle is going to be just hordes of Trollocs and Myrddraal coming, and he's going to be ready for them.
yeah,
he
that's
actually says
the
that.
prologue of Shadow Rising, right?
Yeah, he says that.
Yeah. Or prologue of Dragon Reborn.
Yeah, so we definitely have people thinking of the same prophecies.
One person.
You know, they have them thinking about it differently. Like, and then also you can consider this: people in the South don't even believe that Trollocs and Myrddraal exist.
Right.
You know, they don't. So they have a completely different view of what's going to happen. I mean, they could easily think that, oh, this is all. And they even talk about it, how the Dragon Reborn, all this is bullshit. You know, like
No, but if you say Shaitan, then you fucking get like ringworm.
true.
I mean,
Nynaeve might have some
pink eye.
kind of poultice for that.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't let her anywhere near my ringworm.
which also makes sense to why the farther south you go, like to Tyr, a lot of the High Lords didn't really believe in the. It's like they wanted Rand dead. Now, anybody who believes that somebody's going to save them, be your savior, isn't going to want to kill the guy. You know?
Well, but at the same time, though, right? The thing that's different about like especially the High Lords of Tyr, is they have a freaking piece of prophecy in front of their faces every day. And when they see this thing that hasn't been touched in 3,000 years, all of a sudden being touched, that's like a wake-up call, right? And that's the thing. Like, everybody knows what the prophecy is. And again, like what you just said, Ryan, about when people invoke the name of the Dark One, his true name, there's tangible ramifications to that, whether it's crops going bad or someone close to you dies or something like that. So that's another thing probably that it kind of delivers itself to this universal acceptance that there is a good versus evil aspect of things, right? Because you physically see what happens when you invoke the name of the Dark One. So
I mean,
that's what's different.
Symbol. You know, the ancient symbol of the Aes Sedai, without saying a word, says the whole thing right there.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the way that Robert Jordan wrote it was kind of brilliant. Really, I mean, like having a higher power, an absent higher power, and that's the other thing too, right? Like the creator is not here. He is not, or they are not, because who knows?
Well,
they are not present, right? People are living their lives, crying out to the creator for help, probably when they're, light protect me, light save me. And meanwhile, you have this physical manifestation of darkness that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit different than like first stage, our time now. I can name 13 different names we have for the Christian devil, and nothing is going to happen to me. At least I hope not. Nothing is going to happen to me if I invoked those names, right?
It's happening on the cellular level.
On the cellular, yeah. It's called every second you're 1 second closer to dying. Exactly.
It's getting you.
Well,
So I have a question. Like, let's break the fourth wall. So what is Robert Jordan saying then? Because we know that he was a very religious person. He was a high Episcopalian, which sounds fun, but it's not.
I mean, well, if you're gonna get Episcopalian is a pretty moderate religion.
He was like, I think they were like an extreme sect, but in a way, like, I think he went to church like 3 days a week or something like that. Anyways,
extreme sect of Episcopalians is a very moderate sect of Southern Baptists. That's all I'm gonna say.
No, you're right. Yeah. No, he's not like he's not like shaking his head in a madras or something. But he is going to church. He does believe in. I think we could take it as truth that he believed in God, a Christian God. Yeah. So if that's the case, do you think that his writing this world where the prophecy is like Yeah, like what do you think he's making a commentary?
I don't. No.
Okay.
I think that he is a fictional writer, and he knew that he was writing a very, very brilliant piece of fiction that was his life's work. I don't think, I think, and we even hear him in a lot of, if you listen to Audible, especially the first, I believe, 7.
Yep. The interview at the end of the
Yeah,
book.
the interview at the end of the book talks about taking pieces from
all different
religions,
cultures,
you know, as far as the circularity of things, and how, you know, the Greeks gave us a different kind of they gave us linear time, you know, but he used circularity because it was easier and better for the books. So I mean, he took different things. I think he did it purposely, and I don't think that. I think that because of his faith, he didn't want to put too much of it in there. I think that he did it because of that.
I mean, the other thing Robert Jordan was, besides a man of faith, was an intellectual, right? And you can be a person of faith, and I'm speaking as a person of faith, okay? I would never proselytize my own personal beliefs on anybody, but as a person of faith, I have my own belief system. And
as do I.
I don't think that anybody else isn't entitled to their belief system. I might not agree with their belief system, but everybody is entitled to have a belief system if they choose to, and to respect and, from an intellectual standpoint, study those belief systems enough to become familiar with them, enough to integrate them into a work of fiction that is still respectful of those cultures and societies, says a lot. And if that makes sense, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And prophecies come from a long lineage. I mean, Jesus was the fulfillment of prophecies that occurred. And in fact, the books of the Bible, the first, at the very beginning of Luke, I think, pretty much goes about justifying. Well, you know, if you go all the way back, he's from David. He's from his line, so it checks out right here.
But if you talk to somebody who's Jewish, they don't believe that Jesus was the Son of God. And if you talk to somebody who's of the Muslim faith, they believe that Jesus was a prophet, but they don't believe Jesus was... They don't believe in the Trinity. They don't believe in the divinity of God.
Right.
Ultimate,
And so that's...
Right?
Yeah, Beth, that's what Maureen did. She squeezed in a prophecy. So what if Maureen wasn't at that tower at Fum? Would the prophecy have been fulfilled? You're asking the wrong question.
You're asking the wrong question.
Oh.
Because the pattern is weaving, the threads of the pattern are being woven together by the wheel of time. So it's not if Maureen wasn't there. If Maureen wasn't there, somebody else would have been to find a way to fulfill that prophecy. The pattern, if the pattern wants the prophecy to be fulfilled using Taviran and using all the people around that, the pattern is going to weave the way. I mean, when we
see a few people in the books blatantly try to defy the pattern,
it doesn't work.
And it doesn't work. Like Elida tried to do it, blew up in her face. Patton Fane tries to do it many, many times, blows up in his face.
Hadrian Nile tries to do it, and it blows up in his face.
Blows up his face.
But again, so I guess we're getting to that, like the whole predeterminism. Then I mean, they were just minutes before people were shooting arrows at Moraine, but the pattern knew that Moraine wasn't going to get hit. Land's going to catch them all. I'm going to make land, and then I'm going to let her do that. I mean, it's just. I think that's
more. I don't think that that's necessarily the pattern knowing. I think it's Rand's Taviran pulling Maureen's
I like prophecy, like the born on the slopes of Dragamount. I like prophecy that he doesn't have any idea of that he fulfilled. I like that. The ones where he's like, well, okay, it says here in my book I'm supposed to go get that sword, so let me go get that sword. That's all right. Check that off the list. Next, what's the next prophecy? Okay, let me do that. That to me, I don't like.
It's like a scavenger hunt.
Scavenger hunt, yeah, right.
When he started talking about it, and I believe, what was it? The West and the South become one. The North and the East become one. And he starts even asking Catwin about it. Do you think this is right? And she says it could be, you know, like, and they actually, that was one of the only times they actually talk about it. Like, do you think that it's this? Do you think that it's that? And that was interesting.
I mean, I think Rand got to. I think, how can I explain this? So, in The Dragon Reborn, when Rand is going through the countryside on the way to Tyr after he leaves the encampment that he wintered at with the
Mountains of Mist,
Saldeans and in the mountains, right? With Min and all of them, right? He's kind of going insane a little bit during that time. He's being driven. He's being plagued by Ishamael. He's being hunted in his dreams. He's not really of right mind at that point. So I don't really think he's hyper analyzing. I don't think he's hyper analyzing the prophecy on the daily basis. He is being driven to Tyr. He's literally being driven there.
They say it. Here's Kalendor calling for him.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so you have all those people who are dreaming Rand picking up the sword for weeks before he even does it. Like that's the Taviran nature of Rand. That's how, and then the pattern fulfilling himself all around, like when he all those people got married in the town, and then somebody found all that money, and then he's leaving like a beacon, right? Or a trail
you
to
remember
follow.
the Forsaken were doing the same thing during this
Exactly.
time.
And so I think that Rand at best is an unwilling participant for the first 4 books. Like,
absolutely. And then what does he have to do? He has to surrender to the pattern.
So, so the prophet, so to like pull free will into it, right? I don't necessarily think if it in a world where there's a pattern, I don't necessarily think there's free will like we think of free will, but I think that a lot of parts of the pattern are kind of intermittently sown, and one person's decision is going to have very little impact on the things around them. So they kind of just live their own lives. They do what they're doing. This started the pattern. I lived my life, and that part of the pattern is, so it's cut and then it's replanted somewhere else on another, part of the weave, the loom, whatever. But for those chosen people who are Taviran, all those threads gather up towards the Taviran, and I think that's what drives the prophecy is the pattern using Taviran. Because remember, like at the end, Rand is no longer Taviran in the epilogue of what's it called? He doesn't feel that pressure and that pulling anymore, and so I think that the prophecy is going to be fulfilled no matter what, in one way, shape, or form. But it doesn't impact the average person until we're at the point where, you're at a turning point where the scales need to be balanced.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that. I like the way you said that. I do think,
great quote from Noman Garden right there.
Yeah, the whole show thing, it doesn't really fit with that. But they did what they did, and that's fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So Beth, to that end, the idea I too believe, and I don't know if this is in direct alignment with your belief, but I believe that Taviran are the ones who have the least amount of free will. Right.
Agreed.
And like tertiary characters, if you're like do like a sonographic like distance or away from them, the further away from any Taviran, the less necessary that any like, let's just say if we're in a simulation, and no data needs to be put into that. Like those NPCs can just run around doing what they want. But I do believe that in the very, very end, and this is very spoilery, but in the very, very end, Rand was made a free will choice, like the first of his entire life.
Yep.
Like,
agree.
Right? Yeah,
I agree.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there for sure.
And that's why it makes it special, and not something that's just going to reoccur like over and over again. That like that was a transcendent moment that's never happened before. We got a couple. Let's go into chat real quick. We have some great comments I want to get in. Noam Garden's telling us his true beliefs.
There we go.
He's going to have another drink. This is a great point to kind of nerd slap you around, Dan. Logain tried to fulfill the prophecies, and it did not work well for him. Sure. So it's not just knowing the prophecies. You gotta have that certain je ne sais quoi. Norman Gardner, what is this quote from? Maybe Jansen knows.
Yeah, I do. That's
sure.
from Mazrim Tame. In chapter 1 or 2 of The Dragon Reborn, when he's talking to Rand and Brashear when they first bring him in. And he says that, and then the next thing he says, right after that, he says the same kinds of things they say about you. Am I right, Norman Garden?
Yeah, I think Waterholic's saying this.
Oh, Waterholics? Yeah. And I think that's what he's talking about. That quote is a direct quote from Mazrim Tame from either chapter 1 or 2.
Wait, no, I'm saying it's Lanfear.
Nope, not.
Okay. Oh well.
Nerd off, Ryan.
Yeah. No, this type of conflict that drives up viewers. Nope. Let's go. All right.
Go ahead.
One more quote from Norman Gardner. Victor's right history. Had I taken the stone of Tyr, history would have shown I was born on Dragonmount. Okay, so he's saying it doesn't matter if I fulfilled it. It's just what people think.
That was a direct quote from Mazrim Tame.
Yeah. Yeah, Radiance and Herald My Coming. Yeah, Herald My Coming. Okay. Let's jump into the Aiel, because the Aiel are an entirely different situation. They have the Karkarn, and they have the rings, right, or the pillars that people get to see the past. I don't remember the Karkarn being mentioned at all in the pillars, right?
Yes, he was.
Was he?
That one will come later.
What is it about the Aiel that everyone who goes through those, like, where did it come from? Where did this whole notion that you just literally have to treat everyone who's not gotten in the rings like children who you don't want to let know that Santa Claus doesn't exist because they'll cry? Why is it where did that come from?
Okay, so because if you remember, the Aiel immediately after the break-in were tasked with the responsibility of guarding all of the Tir Angreal, Sangreal, and Angreal that were gathered up. They were the keepers, the safekeepers, and they were pacifists to the point where they would never raise a hand to anybody. So for hundreds of years, they're traveling with these wagons that eventually start breaking with the what were the name of the trees that they had?
The Chora trees.
Chora trees, thank you. And you see this through Rand's POV in the books when the first Aiel were split from the way from the Tuatha'an.
No, Aiden. We cannot go any further.
Correct. And that's the first splintering of who the Aiel were. And so the thing is that the Aiel look at the Tuatha'an with disgust because they absolutely refuse to pick up a sword. They refuse to defend themselves. They will grant them safe passage. The whole reason why they grant them safe passage is because the current leaders of the Aiel have a memory link with them, and they know that they have common ancestry. But because of the way that the Aiel society is built on Giotto and is built on, all of these things that are the opposite of what they believe the Tuatha'an are, to have the revelation given to you that we were like them once and we broke a promise. That's the vow that they broke to the Aes Sedai when the Aiel talk about the vow that was broken to the Aes Sedai, because the Aes Sedai were the ones who gave them that responsibility. So
how many people even know that? I mean, like, everyone knows they broke a vow, but how many? It's
nobody.
Only like
only the leaders, the wise men and the clan chiefs know what the vow was.
Who died?
They just know they did a sin. All the other people just know that they're living there because it's part of the threefold land. They have to atone for the sin.
Right. They have to atone for their sin. And their sin was stopping being Tuatha'an.
So, like, I get it. Like, yeah, like, in the end, like, the bleakness apparently is real, but it's maybe only real because
Matt Stagger missed a bet.
Oh,
we're gonna. All right, let's.
Okay. Let's say, hey everyone, welcome to the Yeah.
Welcome to the Way to the Leaf.
Bella.
Oh yeah, you missed all the Bellas, Matt.
sorry.
Sorry, it was like a Bella marathon.
Bella cacophony.
No, okay, I
Acapella.
I forgot. I
Acapella
have
Bella?
some. I had a great
Acapella.
question. All right, Jansen, you look better.
Acapella.
Nice lighting.
All right, so let's get into the Aiel. The Aiel have the Karkarn. They sent Gaul and others out because the signs were pointing that the Karkarn was probably somewhere, and they know that it was a wetlander, I think, correct?
Yes.
And so
they were told.
And so they were just out looking. They were just wandering around looking, like hiding in bushes, trying to see if, hey, is that the Karkarn? No.
But they knew he would be there, though, because remember, Rorik told Avienda that Amos and Bear bullied him into coming to the coming.
Yeah, because they were dreamwalkers, and that's something else that the Westlands don't really have.
So, what signs were there? Do we know?
Dreams.
Okay.
Well, one of the signs of importance that they thought, one thing that they looked at as a sign were Nynaeve, Elaine, and Egwene going to the stone. They remember Rorik says this to them. This is a strange path you've put me on, Aes Sedai. And Nynaeve says, I've put you on no path. We'll take 3 horses and we'll go this way. And then he says, in the night? And she says, no, we'll sleep and then we'll go in the morning. I think that's what happened.
I love that part of the Dragon Reborn so much. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was a great
Anyway,
one.
sorry. But
does having access to one's past like that, what does that do to the beliefs, I guess, of a philosophical way, to the Aiel? How has that changed them, I guess, knowing what they know?
I think it held until Savannah. I think it, for the most part, kept all the clan chiefs and all the wise ones accountable to each other. So they could have their own little feuds, they could have their raids, they could do these things, but they knew that they were ultimately living for a higher purpose. And it might not happen in their lifetimes, but that was all part of honor and obligation, right? So I think it held them, and their leaders were always strong, because we saw with, what was the name of the Shaidu? What was Couladin's brother's name? Who went through just before
Broadin.
Muradin. He went into the before Rand, and every time Rand woke up from,
he was clawing his eyes out. He was like,
so
pulling
he
his
didn't
tongue
have
out.
the
He was
strength.
like,
So he didn't have the strength to be a leader of the Aiel. So I think that is one of the reasons why the Aiel were able to survive and even thrive as much as they did. Exactly.
Yeah, you imagine like just hearing something about your ancestors, and it just like, you want to tear your eyes, like you actually tear your eyes. It's not that you want to, you actually do pull your eyeballs out of your skull.
But it's different
and hold
because
them in
they're
your hands.
reliving it. They're not hearing about it. They are living it. They're living it through the eyes of their ancestor. So it's not just hearing about her in anecdotal,
and feeling it the way that they felt it as well. Because if you remember, Rand was still crying sometimes after each mission, and so they felt it.
No, I was just
gonna say, I think the bigger question is what happens now, because Avienda went through and saw the future.
Well, see, I love this, because
that's the
story go more than anything.
Well, yeah. And so it's one thing to hold yourself accountable for something that was written or something that was, prophesied.
You can't change
3,000 years ago. But what happens if you can see into the future and you try to change that future? I think that's a even more interest. Like how
correct.
Remember what Bear
like
said? Bear said that. Remember, she says this.
change
said
the name of your
roar.
children. Don't tell the names of your children.
No,
to
not that one.
anybody.
That was a great.
a nice hibernation.
What I'm talking about is when she
He said,
said,
"Hey, boo
"The
boo."
columns have always showed us how to help our people."
People,
And I think-
yes,
and they always still will, and they still are. That's exactly
and they
what it's
still are.
doing.
Yeah,
You know, now it's giving them purpose to help change the people still and keep them going. How to kill? I mean, the glass columns' sole purpose is to help the Aiel survive.
right.
Yeah.
But I mean,
well,
that's how they use it now. They weren't invented for them. We still don't know what their original purpose truly was,
We don't know that about anything.
or what the origin is. Is it alien? Is it?
right.
Is
They
it,
carried around on a wagon for 200 years.
Is this leftover from Elon Musk in this age?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does he invent these glass columns? Then they just last
I
until
hope
the.
not.
They call that glass column X. I don't know.
Well, they were.
So-
I think the gas columns were actually made during the making of Roydion, with the Jin Aiel and the 4 Aes Sedai that were with them. I think that's when they were made.
Well, let's go into prophecy now. Rand went to Viridian. He came back with the dawn, mind you, and he had dragon 2 sleeves, dragon sleeves on his arms. But guess what? So did Couladin. And I don't blame Couladin. I know that he was an asshole, but in my head, if I go there and I come back and I got the 2 sweet ass dragon sleeves, I'm the Kor'kon, man. So yeah, we are gonna battle.
No, he was tattooed.
Asmodean put them there.
Asmodean
Like,
put
did
them
he
on
know,
him.
or did
But he
just,
didn't know.
Yes, he knew.
Yeah, he
Yes,
did.
he knew.
Did he know?
Yes, he did.
Hey, hold on. Did
Do you think
he?
he?
did.
Hey,
Savannah
did he cry a
did,
little
and
when he got him
Savannah did.
tattooed?
He's like, ow, 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 ow.
There's
Give me 10 minutes.
numerous quotes that show
Numerous
that
references to that.
Even Rand says he probably believed it by now.
All right. Hold your horses. We're just dumb puppets.
All right.
Easy,
Come on.
easy.
Yeah, you think it's easy to read with these eyes? I don't blink. So okay, I guess whatever. But
Or so it says the
Whatever.
the Aes Sedai in Ruidian made the glass columns. Fascinating. Can they make more?
Of course they can. Especially
Maybe
now,
now that
Volk-
Elaine has
now that
rediscovered how to
Elaine
make
knows-
Tyrion Grill.
and that they have the supercomputer at the White Tower, and that Avienda knows how to make things work. Hell yeah, they can make anything.
Which is kind of
God.
scary, actually.
Well, okay. Will there be new prophecies?
I think they're already started, and I think
Yeah.
that Min is the key to that. And I can name a couple of them right now. One, Eldraine, who is going to have a great life. Fairlane, who's she said, now you would think a nasty woman, but you would think she would have a bad life, but she's going to have a good one. Nynaeve wanted to know more, but she didn't get to because they went on to something else. But Min has a bunch of them, like Loghain, honor to come.
No. I think that that's there
I
in
hear
a
what you're saying, Ryan.
prophecy.
Is are we going to have subsequent, not ones that continue past the last battle, but ones that are delivered past the last battle? Correct.
Believe that we
Yeah.
will, because
Well,
we
if the
have.
wheel of time turns and ages come and pass, there will be another prophecy in the future.
And we already have a ton of artifacts that are in the world right now for no reason. And the most obscure one I still think is the Silver Arrow.
I thought you were going to say the Mercedes-Benz sign.
Oh, there's a ton of different artifacts.
Do you think that Robert Jordan believed in prophecy and seances and stuff like that? Do you think he had that like metaphysical inkling personally?
Speaking in tongue.
Huh. I
don't
know.
know, to be
Revelation.
honest with you.
I know that his wife was very religious as well. I do know
Mhm.
that. So I mean, you know,
I'm not trying to
you have
disparage.
faith.
I'm just wondering if
Faith
you know.
is believing. Faith is the belief in something that you don't have any evidence for. So
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
magic is just science we can't explain yet. So,
Mm-hmm. And soup is good food.
And Mama likes it chunky.
oh,
What? No, it's chunky soup. What? No, it's come on. It's Donovan McNabb's mom.
So wait, okay, so but are we assuming that prophecies come from foretellings? Do all prophecies come from?
I think most of them do. Yeah, I believe that that's the only way. I think that they even talk about it when Grendel saw the dark prophecy for the first time, and Moradin tells her that all of the channelers who prophesied this were sequestered and kept. So now we'll always know our prophecies, and they won't know theirs. So they actually say that. They actually say that. So yeah, they're definitely all, and that's why I think Min, even though her power is unique, she is one of the other, I guess, quote unquote, oracles in the story, in the books.
Doomseer.
You know?
There we go. Maybe we'll pop Jensen's face up higher. There we saw that.
But I believe that, I think that that's definitely part of the lore, part of the why you get those, pattern. Piran and Egwene and the wise ones, the Dreamwalkers, also have another window actual window into the lore, into when they go in and they see the windows and things that possibly may happen. So I think that they have a bunch of different ways to actually interpret the pattern, not just foretelling.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Beth.
Oh, I was just going to say, think about this, though, too. After the last battle, Moghedien and Lanfear are still alive.
So is Grendel.
Mm-hmm.
So is Grendel. Well, but she's incapacitated. She's never going to regain.
Oh, Jansen has a theory.
She can't get
I don't know about that.
She can be healed.
So she's
in
the
mind.
only, and then technically so is Masana.
Yeah, exactly. And keep in mind,
okay, so
that Nynaeve has the ability to heal madness.
Oh God, hopefully she
But not
doesn't.
stupidity.
But I mean, you have Moghedien, who, mind you, she becomes a Damane, but then according to Brandon Sanderson, Lanfear did not die until Erenriad. So you've got these two, and I honestly think so. I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, and I'm sorry about this, but if you think about Avienda's walks into the columns where she sees the future, she's only going forward. So she starts way far in the future, and then she comes back, and the most recent one she sees is her children. Correct? Who's missing from her children and her grandchildren?
Rand?
Avienda and Elaine. They're nowhere to be seen. They're nowhere. Like in the next 20 to 50 years.
They die.
So who kills them? How do they die? Why, hello, Lanfear.
Hey, happy Easter, everyone.
There's also a couple of other people, too. You remember, Leandrin is also still alive.
True.
With the Sean.
But I'm just saying that I wouldn't be surprised if woman scorned.
Oh my god.
She's not dead.
That bums me out. I thought they all went
to a lot of sense.
Same.
Farm to run with.
But I always wondered, where are Avienda and Elaine if Aes Sedai and Chandlers lived for hundreds of years? Why are they absent in those immediate generations?
Now that's in hers. Now remember though, in one of Rand's future, sightings, Elaine was alive. So
well, that was a spinning of the Dark One, spinning a future without the Dark One in it. That doesn't mean that Elaine was real.
This future thing is very funky because I love it. No, we're going to dig into it a little bit because we have Terangriel that have shown a potential future, correct? Like with the accepted test, for instance.
But remember also, Avienda's also already changed the future.
That is true. By changing the names of her children, they won't be the same. It won't be the same. So that's kind of what I was going to touch on, Jansen. So that we have this nebulous thing in the future that we've seen from our other characters when they go into the future. It is not canonical
truth, right? It's a possibility, or
Yeah, it's a-
whatnot.
Well, no future is canonical
flicker.
truth in this series.
What?
No future
Well,
is canonical
yeah.
truth
Men's
because
are.
it ends with very specific questions being left open on purpose.
I mean, but Min is very definitive that what she says will happen, and we see that
Yeah.
that's true.
But she also
Avienda changed the prophecy by changing the children's name. So what does that say about prophecy itself? Is this
Well,
is
no,
this
the
just-
prophecy that she changed was insisting that the Aiel be included in the dragon's piece.
Yeah.
That's what she changed, because originally Rand was going to keep them outside of the dragon's piece. So that's why the Shanshan didn't have to honor any treaty with them. And that's what ultimately led to their downfall. So by the Aiel being included in the dragon's piece, they are on equal standing with the Shanshan. And that was what Avienda
also, if you remember,
insisted.
I don't know if anybody thought about this, but it's almost like a paradox, because them fighting in the future gave the Shanshan that many more wise ones to use as weapons.
Correct.
They don't have that now, so they're not going to be as strong as they were before. You know, there were hundreds, if not thousands of wise ones who could channel. That basically gave them Avienda's bad future. Now that they don't have that anymore. So they have changed it hugely, changed the future. And if also, as far as changing the future, if you remember in Min's POV, she says to herself that she had visions that said might. Only twice in her life that she had visions that said might. One of those were Gareth Bryn and Swan. If they stay together, they stay alive. If they don't, then they die. They die. That was one might. The other might.
The other one's the Mike Tyson fight coming up against that YouTuber.
Oh God!
Go on, sorry.
Paul, somebody, the Paul guy.
Jake Paul. Jake Paul.
Man, I'll tell you,
Paul, Ryan,
age is a terrible
Ryan
thing.
Paul.
But Mike Tyson, if he can if he doesn't have to go past a round, he's going to tear him up.
Mike Tyson's going to destroy that dude.
Yeah. If it goes 2 or 3 rounds, he might get win.
Seen him working out now?
Yeah, he's breaking Humvees.
You have to remember, there was a time when he was the scariest man on the planet. He still is, man. Look at the eyes of that guy. No thanks, man.
No, my hands hurt, and I'm not.
He took ayahuasca and he met the spiritual frog and he punched it in the face.
He punched the frog. He's like, "Hey,"
he said, "Get out of my mind!" Boom. He said, "Get out of my mind."
Yeah, my mind. You're the frog of death. Punch.
Good. That's funny.
All right. Sorry about that.
All right. So what is okay? So I mean, we could talk forever about this whole notion that so she went and saw the quote unquote future, and then she changed her kid's name.
What? How does that mean the prophecy though, Ryan? I'm sorry. Go on. I'm sorry.
No. Again, not every future foretelling turns into a prophecy. I don't know what. I don't know how you get graduated up to summa cum laude prophecy level. I don't know how you're one foretelling or future sighting or dream work graduates to a prophecy, but some do. Not all of them do. But what does it mean that you could change it? And what does it mean that Shanshan have a corrupted prophecies themselves? Their prophecies got changed.
I don't know if they were corrupted, but I believe that they were added. Things were added to them. But I don't know.
I thought the whole idea that Rand had to kneel to the throne was.
He does kneel to the crystal throne. Though. He ultimately does it.
He kneels.
Well,
he doesn't do it in the way that they expected to, because they're pompous, arrogant assholes that think that they have dominion over the entire planet. But he still does kneel to her.
Yep,
and he kneels to the crystal throne. He does fulfill the prophecy.
Yeah, he does.
He just doesn't do it in the way that they.
All right, so maybe
that was true then.
I might be okay, but then we're talking about self-fulfilling because he knew that anyway. So like, what part
I
of
don't
the
think
Shan-Chan?
he knew he was supposed to kneel to her because that's a Shan-Chan prophecy, and he did not know the Shan-Chan prophecies.
And
He didn't know, just like the Shan-Chan had prophecies, including Matt and Perrin.
Yep.
Those are never, Matt and Perrin are never mentioned besides being the standard bearer and the horn blower. They are never mentioned.
Wait a second. No, they are mentioned.
They are both mentioned in the Shan-Chan prophecies.
I'm not sure about Matt and the Shan-Chan prophecy.
Yeah, he's mentioned in the Shan-Chan prophecies because Tuwan has the conversation with him about shit. I can't remember exactly what it is.
No, he doesn't. Those are from Damani.
Damani omens.
Yes, those are Damani omens.
Yeah. But Perrin is.
Perrin, yes, because
Perrin
the hammer.
Because he is the Wolf King.
For some reason knows this prophecy. And Perrin actually says that to Perrin. When are you going to turn this up? When are you going to give up this for the hammer? When are you going to give up the hammer for the axe? She says that to Perrin. The only other place that comes from is the Shan-Chan prophecy, but Perrin knows it.
Dude, that's crazy. I've always wondered how she asked what was going on with that.
I mean, I'm just saying that
that's crazy.
Like I don't think any of the prophecies are wrong.
No, because we get random ones from even Jane Farstrider. Right. What is it when the horns of battle are blown? And he says something like, with the fox that makes the ravens fly.
And that's Matt.
That's the moons from the sky. Yeah, that's Matt. And that's that. But that's
the daughter of the 9 moons.
Yeah, that's Noel saying that.
Right.
That's Noel.
So I mean, you. The only prophecies that Rand did not fulfill were the prophecies regarding Bow the Wilt, and that's again, if you haven't read the short story, you really need to understand fully what those are about. And Demandred did that on purpose because like everybody's asking, where's Demandred? What has Demandred been up to? What is he doing? Well, he was pretending to be Rand and gathering up an entire society of really crazy channelers to follow him. And that's the only reason why they did those. The Sharans weren't necessarily evil. They were warped. Their skew of the one power was very warped, but they weren't necessarily evil. They were following who they thought was their equivalent of the Karakarn and the.
Also, there were 2 people who one person who twice claimed that he knew exactly what Demon Dread was doing. That was Sam Aiel.
We don't know if he knew or not because he got eaten by Mastodon.
Yeah,
Do we know if the Aiel had any idea about the Carathian cycle? Did they know about the remnant of a remnant and all that?
Yes, because that's exactly what they say to Rand. They said, "Do you really want to know what the true?" And Rand says, "What is the true meaning of the prophecies of Rodian?" And then they say that a remnant of a remnant you will keep. He says that they say that to him. They know that. Yeah, definitely.
You have to remember though too that the Aes Sedai and the Aiel were still very closely intertwined for hundreds of years after the breaking. You had Aes Sedai traveling with the Aiel, coming back to the wanderings of the Aiel.
Well, with the Jinn.
With the Jedi Aiel especially. So you still so those foundations were laid for, and Aiel was there when the prophecy was spoken.
That's
out loud,
surprising because it felt like every Aes Sedai's POV as they encounter like Wise One, it felt like that they're like foreign to them and that they had no idea how they organize themselves.
Well, those last 4 that Rand saw, those are the last ones that dealt with the Aiel. Those were the very last ones. And even back then, when they first went, they said that one of them was so old that her skin looked like parchment paper. Like, so, they went through all the Trolloc Wars and Hawkwing and everything. That's 2,000 years with none, no Aes Sedai.
I mean, and also think of it this way too. You had Aes Sedai, or women who can channel, who claimed that they were Aes Sedai in what became Shan-Chan for thousands of years, reaping their own kind of
armies of the night.
Right? Yeah. So, I mean, stuff is going to change over time somewhat.
Well, this has come to my mind as we're talking. Are the Aes Sedai prophecies actual prophecies, or are they a like conglomeration of things that different wise ones have learned by going through their own paths? Because we assume, I assume at least, that no one sees the exact same thing. They see, it's not like it's the same main characters. It's your
Right, it's their
lineage.
ancestors.
No.
Yes.
Everybody remember what they said, though. They do, up until the point of the sharing of water is different. After that, everybody sees the same.
Correct. Okay. Correct. So what do we know that if the wise ones ever converse about their experiences with other wise ones? See,
I doubt it.
So
it's
wrong,
very
then.
much like they don't converse after they come out of the arches in the tower.
So the wise one, it seems like they would want to, like, maybe even go into their dreams and spy and see what the heck they learned about the past. They don't have anything written, so this is like watching documentaries, like Discovery Channel documentaries of a thing, but everyone gets their own documentary. So you would think that people would want to know what's going on. And in my head, that's where the prophecies come from, by saying there's got to be someone, this Carcon coming, because they mentioned someone's coming later. This I don't know where it says he who comes with the dawn. Is there something written that says that shit? Or
they
I don't know.
need to be written, because they have the Aiel are the ones who have the
they're getting reinforced all the time.
You don't, and with every generation of people going through the and it's a known fact that if you make it through, you saw what you saw.
And now everybody knows.
So did people just see some cat come in the dawn, and so that's why? Oh, and then he who comes with the dawn will come and do this thing, and they don't know who it is.
It wasn't even. But it wasn't even that. That was just one part of it. Then he had to go to Al-Kardal and fulfill the other part of it, and that's when they were broken.
You always forget about Al-Kardal, Dan.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking about the prophecy that Rand fulfilled, though.
Like, that's what I'm talking about. But he who comes with the dawn is just one part of that prophecy.
Right.
The next part.
Golden Bowl, Matt said it in Rand's POV. Matt said it with a different accent, and then Lan looked at him very weirdly. That's exactly. Yeah, it's coming back to me. Like every time I hear this, this comes back to me.
But I think if you think about like parallelisms between modern societies, when you have any society that has a narrative form of storytelling, of history telling, indigenous tribes here in the United States and like Bedouin cultures in the Middle East, they don't necessarily write things down, but they have a very rich intrinsic storytelling, record keeping way of keeping records. And I kind of imagine that's how the Aiel are.
That makes sense.
And so just because it's an oral history doesn't mean it's an inaccurate history.
But they don't talk, is what I'm saying. They don't share things.
But they talk, but they don't share the specifics of the instance, but they do talk about the code. That they do talk about Giotto. They talk
about how you can't talk about it.
Right. They do talk about it, and everybody knows. They don't know why they are set to wander the waste. They don't know what the sin was, but they all acknowledge that it happened, and they accept it, and they're waiting for their time. And that's oral tradition. And I think that the fact that Robert Jordan has incorporated an oral tradition in The Wheel of Time is amazing, because there are so many cultures that that's how they thrive and tell stories.
Jansen, to me, the Aiel are an example of, if you have a family secret and don't share it, it is eventually going to corrupt your society. Do you think that they would have been better if they had if they had shared, if this was common knowledge?
No.
Okay, explain.
Because not knowing forged them into what they were, to help them be able to. What Rand needed more than anything else, like if you strip everything away, cultures, alliances, all that, he needed warriors, good ones that he trusted. And every single thing that happened to the Aiel, they even say it, going to the threefold land, it was a way to punish them, to sculpt them, and to turn them into what Rand needed. And I'm going to go off on one other thing, because we have not been talking much about the Seafolk, but one of the huge similarities between the Aiel and the Seafolk is that they both revered where they lived.
Yeah.
The threefold land, and as far as the ocean, as far as the water and the salt, they both revered it and used it, and it both changed their cultures into what they were, and they revered it.
Yeah, the Aiel go into Kyrian and they're like, look at all these dirty French. Gross. They smell. Ew.
Can the Aiel read?
Of course.
Yes.
Remember?
They love books.
Remember when Hadnan Kadir came to the fair, the first thing they bought in Matt's POV, they
you're right.
bought books.
I just have a hard time picturing them sitting around reading.
In fact, that's what Matt says. He didn't even think the Aiel could read. He says that in the POV.
Yeah. Me and Matt were both Aiel racists. Damn it! Oh, I'm so bad.
So I guess, do we have any spiritual idea of the Aiel's culture? I know that they say that the world is a dream. It's time, you wake from the dream. That's their idea of like life and death. When the dream is over, I don't know if they've ever pontificated what waking from the dream actually means.
Yeah.
Well, I think they believe in the pattern, so I think they do believe that they'll be reborn.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but I always thought of it.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I always thought there was parallels to like Hinduism and Buddhism and like Maya and the concept of illusion.
Right. That death, life, death. Yeah.
And like Buddhism would be just freedom from attachments, right? Yeah,
we have this fearlessness with them. So there must be some sort of Valhalla or something like for Aiel people, because they all want to die.
No, they don't want to die.
They want to die. I just don't think that they're afraid of dying. They're not afraid of death. They embrace death.
Tells this to Nynaeve. Remember, what does he say to Nynaeve? Warwick says to Nynaeve, we know that it's a dream, but we don't want to rush to it, or something like that. And a man gets older, he doesn't want to rush to it, or something like he says something like that to her.
Okay.
Calming her nerves.
Yeah, Dan, they're not a death cult.
No, well, no, come on. But
those are the Masana and the dragon.
They're just
sworn.
all ride or dies.
They're total death cults. They would definitely put on the
ride or die death cult people might be the gray men and gray women.
Facts.
Yeah, I don't see any other way, because
Gaul is pretty ride or die.
So
like, well, we're probably gonna die here. Good luck. Bye.
I like the idea that like when you first like join Dark Friend School, like you got to pick your major, and some people can just pick Gray Man.
They're like, well, I heard that the teacher is kind of old and retiring, so he doesn't really care.
He doesn't sign a lot of homework. No, but isn't that true though? Gray Men, they all choose to be a Gray Man. Isn't that what I remember?
I thought about this for a long time, and I thought, what would make me want to be a Gray Man? And I thought, if my child was dying and had no way out, and the Dark One comes to me and says he can live, all you have to do is give me your soul. Might do it.
Mm-hmm. How do we know that this hasn't happened yesterday?
No, we don't.
Yeah, we don't. No, that's very nondescript right now.
Yeah, we don't.
I was having a hard time seeing you earlier. That's it. This is all kind of making sense to me.
Okay, guys, it's 5:40.
Yep. Let's
great conversation.
Yeah, great conversation. I loved it, and we did it without being theologians. So I'm loving it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As always, just watching you too, your mind's melding. It's a sight. It's a sight for these non-blinking eyes. You guys are both. You guys bring so much to our channel. Thank you so much for always coming week to week. Everyone in chat, thank you for joining us.
Love you guys.
We are not having leave cast this Tuesday. We will return soon with book 10.
I'm so
then,
proud of you guys. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Hey, come watch me finish The Last of Us on Twitch in a little while. Also on YouTube.
Yes.
Also be on YouTube.
I'll come in. I come in sometimes to watch you, Beth. I'll come in.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll also be on TikTok as well. So, by the way, yeah. So, The Last of Us, amazing.
Yeah.
By the way, puppets, you both look very dapper today. By the way.
you look
nice. I
nice.
wanted to tell you that. Yeah, I mean, you both look very dapper today.
Thank you. I wore my best tie.
I have a super long ball gown.
I love it.
Yeah,
Here for
hells.
it. Absolutely here for it.
Oh, you're the best.
Thanks.
Well, thank you very much. We love you and we're proud of you. Be good to everyone that you know.
Bye, guys.
All right. Good night.